before, my name's Chris, and I'm really glad that you decided to join us today. When you came in today, you received a program. It looks like this. If you go ahead and pull those out for me. Inside, you're going to find more information about our church and different ways that you can get involved and get connected here. But there are a few things inside I do want to point out to you. One of them is your message notes for today, and you use these to follow along with Pastor Scott as he teaches and wraps up our habit series today. But also inside of your program is your Well Connection card. If I can just find it, here we go. It looks like this. Go ahead and pull those out. If you've been here before, we ask that you fill out your name and your email address and then check the box regular attender. But if this is your first time here, welcome. We're glad that you decided to join us today. And we're just going to ask that you fill out as much information as you feel comfortable sharing with us on the front side of this card. And then go ahead and check first time guest box at the top. And then you're going to want to hold on to these cards. There's going to be some next steps, which we're going to talk about throughout our service today. And then we're going to be collecting these cards later on in the service, along with our offering. But if you flip this card over to the back, right up on the top, it says, sign me up for a group. So inside of your program as well is our little information about the Well groups. And our groups are groups of 10 to 12 people who meet during the week to study biblical principles together, to meet new people, develop real relationships, to support and encourage one another. And so it's a great way to grow in your faith here at the Well. It's also a great way to meet new people and find the friendships that we all so desperately need in our lives. Now, all of our groups are going to be reading through the book Divine Direction. And, you know, we make hundreds of decisions every single day in our lives, right? I mean, some of them are, not that important, like what socks I'm going to wear. But then there's like, who am I going to talk to today, whether I should talk to this person or not? What am I going to do with my time today? So some of our decisions, while they seem small, can really have a monumental effect. And so we're going to read through that and talk about the decisions in our life and how they can literally change not only your life, but your eternity as well, based on the decisions you make. And so if you sign up for a group and you attend a service on February 9th, we're going to give you a free copy of your group book, Divine Direction. So to sign up for a group, you're going to see some on the flyer. You're going to see a bunch of groups listed, and you're going to notice a couple of them are closed already because they're full. And so I really would encourage you to sign up for a group today. Make sure that you can get into a group that you need. We still have 3 groups that are available. And you're going to see a number beside each group. So find the group that works for you. And then on the back of your connection card, it's just sign me up for a group. Just check one of those boxes. And we're going to get you all the information you need for your group. They start the week of February 10th. And they last just 8 to 10 weeks. You're not signing your life away. It's a small commitment of time, but it has a great, great benefit. So go ahead and sign up for a group today. You don't want to miss out. And then next Sunday, you're going to notice one of these cards that were clipped onto your program is Football Sunday. Now, I know, it might be a little painful still that the Patriots are kind of out of the Super Bowl, but it's going to be a great Sunday. Next Sunday, we're going to hear some testimonies from some NFL players. I hear there might be some chicken wings available, and it's just going to be a great time. It's a great opportunity to invite someone who maybe never has been to church before to come and experience Football Sunday next Sunday. But also inside of your programs is our giving envelope. And if you've been here before, you know that back in December, we kicked off our special offering for the sake of the world. And this is an outward-focused offering. There's 4 ministry initiatives. You can read more about them. But one of those initiatives is to help people in need right here in our community. And one of those places of need is a Dr. Crisp school, which is really just down the road. And most of the people, kids who attend there are considered under the poverty line. And so this church has been able to partner with them and provide them with school supplies and Christmas presents. And so we talked to the principal over there, and so let's take a look.
I'm Grace Tavares. I'm from the Dr. Chris Elementary School here in Nashua. I am the homeschool coordinator, and I am the bridge between school, community, and families. It has been a very pleasant and a positive experience. I think that once you rented our gym and you were here on a regular basis, it gave us a chance to the families to see and meet with you on a personal level, and it also gave a face to the names and the agency that was supporting our school. I think if you look around and see that not just the school supplies, but the grounds and support that you give in the holidays really shows that you're committed in all aspects of our school community. And I think it's been very positive, and I've had a lot of fun, and you have a lot of great people on your team. Speaks bounds of where your passion is and how you're trying to serve the community. With the supplies that we get from the well, we supply 200 students, maybe more, with the homework kit, pens, pencils, crayons, erasers, scissors, sharpeners, everything needed to be able to do their homework at home. It allows them to complete their homework, be successful, and be in an equal level with those that have, and encourages them. And you've been doing that for a few years now, and it's in abundance. This year you supported the staff by giving tissues, Clorox wipes, hand sanitizers, things that we consume like it's water. Our teachers were so happy when they came in to see that we had presents from the well. And I thought this year was also special because your team that was here walked around the building and delivered to each classroom what was being donated, the homework kits, the teacher's gift. And the teachers that were here were able to make a connection, see them, and hear their story. And I think that not only did that encourage our staff to say, wow, this well group was fantastic, but also the visibility as to how much you give and how much we depend on you. And I think that I wouldn't be able to do that and be so successful in getting that done without the well. Keeping the landscaping clean, helping us with our garden, helping with school supplies, helping at Christmas. Your impact is on every level. And I just think that that's something that our community at large needs to see more of. There's such a need, and it's so helpful. I mean, I think I would not be able to do it without you. So I say keep up the good work and don't stop what you're doing.
Man, I don't know about you guys, but I'm super proud to belong to a church that has that kind of impact on a local level right here in our very own neighborhood. So I'm proud to be your pastor. I'm proud to be a part of this church family and to do that together. So I wanted to give you a quick update on this For the Sake of the World special giving. This is the last Sunday before it all closes out at the end of this month. And our goal, it was a God-sized goal of raising $10,200 on top of our normal giving so that we can really invest in the community and continue to partner with other organizations to help advance the gospel around this area. And we are getting close. If you want to put that update up there, we are over $8,000 at this point, so we got about $2,000 left. And here's my challenge to all of us. Man, if every one of us in this room, if we just gave a small amount today, all of us, just all of us did something. I mean, we're talking $50. We could probably get there. And the value of this is that if we resource all of this, the kind of impact that we can have this year, we can get the gospel out to hundreds more and help introduce more people to the love of Jesus tangibly and right here in our own church family. So I challenge us, let's do that. Let's step up and let's do that together so that, Jesus' name can be that much greater. So proud of you guys and grateful for what God is going to do in 2020. I think it's going to be our best year yet. Well, do me a favor. Why don't you stand up, say hi to somebody next to you, and we're going to be back concluding our series Habits in just a second. Welcome to our online experience here at The Well. I'm Pastor Scott Kearney, and I'm so glad you've tuned in. We hope you really enjoy your experience with us today. We know it can be intimidating to visit a church for the first time, so we're really glad that you've decided to check us out online first. But we encourage you not to let it stop there. We encourage you to connect with us so that we can give you more information about who we are as a church and how to get more involved. You can even take your first step right where you're watching. Just text "new to the well" to 97,000 and we'll get a conversation started. Share a little bit about yourself and how to connect with you. We're not going to show up at your house or sell your info. We're just going to start an online conversation to help you know a little bit more about who we are. Whether you consider yourself a person of faith or not, we want you to know that you belong at the Well because we believe that there are no perfect people. In fact, we've saved a seat for you and crafted our entire experience for you to feel comfortable with us.
You can wear whatever you want, enjoy our freshly brewed Starbucks, tea, and even some fresh donuts. If you have kids 10 and younger, we have a phenomenal kids area called Kid Zone, where you'll meet incredible kid volunteers who will safely check your kids into our age-appropriate classrooms and help them have a blast building friendships, playing games, and learning more about God's love for them and our world. If you're watching from home but would like to contribute to the work that God is doing at the Well, we want you to know that you can contribute remotely in a few ways. You can give online at thewellnh.org/give, where you can give a one-time gift or even automate your giving. You can also text to give by texting $sign and amount to 84321. Again, we're so glad you're with us today. We hope you enjoy your online experience, but we hope even more to meet you in person soon. For now, welcome to our next message today in our series called Habits.
All right. Hey, we are concluding this series of habits today. I hope it's been a gift for you guys. I know it's been a gift for me. We're talking about the power of small, tiny changes that we can introduce to our life that if over the long haul we're faithful with, can have a massive impact. Chris mentioned it earlier. We have message notes that we want to make available for you guys in all those programs. If you do not have one of those, a set of programs, please put your hand up, and we have a team of people who can get you one of those. So glad you guys are here. So here's the deal. In this whole habit series, we want to talk about what it means to take on these small, consistent habits, to become the kind of people that God is asking us to become, but also to not just become on our own, but to actually have an impact on other people's lives so they can become the kind of people that God has called them to be as well. So it's a change on the inside of us, but a change through us to the lives of other people as well. We've talked about this over the past couple of weeks. Man, our vision as a church is to kind of leave the kind of impact in this area so that it doesn't look the same. For decades to come, we don't want this area to be the second least religious area of the country anymore. We want it to be an area where the gospel thrives and where people know Jesus and they're spreading him all over the place and tangible good is resulting from that. That's our vision, and we want to multiply people who are impacting other people, groups that are impacting groups, and churches that multiply churches to the point where we don't see that statistic anymore. But the big question really is, how do we do that? How do we influence people? Because if we live in the second least religious area of the country, how do we share the love of Jesus with them in a way that's really going to reach them? Because there's plenty of reasons for people to not belong to church and to be skeptical about it a lot. And when you're thinking about reaching those people and influencing them, man, that's an obstacle. That's hard. Whether you're a Christian or not in this room, we're going to talk about influence today and how to influence people. Now, I think we fall into one of two extremes when it comes to how do we deal with this situation here in the Northeast. One extreme is that we become really hesitant to share anything about our faith. Why? Well, look, we've all had those awkward, scary moments when someone pushes something on us that we just weren't ready for. You know what I'm talking about? It's like that bullhorn guy on the street corner who's pronouncing judgment. You just like, not associated with him, right? Or that group of religious people that show up at your house and you just know by the look like they got something they want to sell. And maybe even just some of the scandals that have happened around church, even here in the Northeast. Like, there is plenty to go around that would make us feel hesitant to share our faith. You tack on top of that this tolerant culture of don't push your beliefs or your opinions on me. I want to believe what I want to believe. You believe whatever you want to believe. And it leaves us sometimes feeling hesitant at best to share. I mean, for some of us in this room, maybe we've even asked, like, well, should I even share my faith? Well, let me throw this out. 2 Corinthians 5, 17 through 18. If you have your message notes, you're going to follow along with us in this. 2 Corinthians 5, 17 through 18 basically tells us that if we're a follower of Jesus, sharing our faith is part of our identity. This is part of our DNA, about who we are. Check this out. Verse 17 says, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone, the new is here. All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ, and, check this out, gave us the ministry of reconciliation. He gave that to us. I don't know if you guys knew this, but God's plan A for this world was his church. He doesn't have a plan B on how to influence the world to come back to him. The church is it. He gave us the ministry of reconciliation. He says, we are therefore, think about identity in this moment, okay? Who we are as Christians, as followers of Jesus, is part of our identity. We are, therefore, Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. Now, what's an ambassador? An ambassador is someone who represents someone else and builds bridges into the life of another party to influence them to get on board there, to help them strike up a new path, representing someone else and influencing. That's what an ambassador is. This is part of our identity as followers of Jesus. And so we can't just fall into extreme one of being hesitant and backing off and not sharing our faith. That's just not part of who we are. But the second extreme, for some of us in this room, man, you've wanted to share your faith. You want people to have the same hope that you have in Jesus. But maybe you've pressured yourself into thinking that it has to look a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like some of us in this room, like we get scared about it because we think we all of a sudden have to be Billy Graham. You know what I mean? Like you're talking to your coworker or your neighbor and you're just like, you having a normal conversation. Hey, what's the weather like? How's your job going? Oh, by the way, did you know that the God of the universe died for you? And if you don't believe in him right now, you're going to hell? Like, I mean, seriously, sometimes it's that kind of a leap and we think, man, I can't do that. Right? I mean, for one, I'm going to scare them off forever and they're never going to like me or talk to me ever again. But we think we put so much pressure on ourselves that it has to look a certain way. What if it was a lot simpler than that? What if it was actually a lot more fun than that? That's what we're going to talk about today. Because it's actually a lot more of an adventure and a lot more fun and a lot more simpler than we ever think that it is. And here's really what's at stake, guys. If we don't engage this, there are dozens, hundreds, thousands of people in this area that may never know how awesome the love of God is, how life-changing the love of God is. Now, when we think about this, we think, okay, well, what would it look like if it was simpler, if it was easier? Well, follow me on this. There was a story, this is true, it's actually a study that was done of two different people groups that went to Thailand. They were missionaries sent from the United States to Thailand to go bring people to Jesus. But one group was sent with the specific instructions, I want you to convert people in Thailand. I want you to bring people to Jesus by converting them. The other one was sent with this specific instructions, I want you to go to love these people and serve them. Set up a business that actually does good in the community and then talk about Jesus. And they were just curious, after 2 years, what kind of impact would each group have? Well, it's fascinating. The first group that was sent to convert people after 2 years brought 2 people to faith in Jesus. The second group brought 100 people to Jesus. 50 times the result. And not only that, their community looked different. They brought tangible good about it. And so a pastor out of this, thinking about all this study, he thought to himself, what would it look like to equip our people just to bless our community? To serve them right where they are, and out of that, to draw them lovingly back to Jesus. And as he just started discovering this, he realized that this is part and parcel of the identity of the people of God from the very beginning. You see, God made a promise to Abraham back in Genesis 12. You can see this in your notes. He said, I'm going to bless you. And we read that in 2 Corinthians, right? Jesus has come for us and given us a new identity. He doesn't count our sins against us anymore. He died for us in our place. We are new. I'm going to bless you, but I'm also going to bless the whole world through you. This is what it means to be a follower of God. You are blessed to be a blessing. That's who we are. So how do we bless people? How do we do it? Tangibly, what does that look like? Today, we're going to finish our series, Habits. Small, consistent changes to influence people to Jesus. And we're going to work through an acronym here called BLESS. And this is a strategy that we're introducing today that we're actually going to carry for the rest of 2020, because our whole vision is to influence people for Jesus. We want to equip you guys with these habits all year long to be able to introduce the love of Christ to the people that you know that don't know him yet. And the first one, you can write this down, is begin with prayer. Begin with prayer. Now, for the introverts in the room, man, you're excited already. You don't have to talk to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just starts with you and God. You can go into a closet and pray, and you've already completed step one. Congratulations. Introverts in the room, rejoice, okay? Like, that's for you right there. But here's the powerful thing, okay? We're talking about influencing people to transition from one loyalty in their life, from self, to transferring that loyalty to God. Can you change a life? Can you transform that heart on your own? I mean, I don't care how winsome you are, or if you got James Earl Jones' voice. Like, you know, sometimes I thought, man, if I was Scottish, or if I had that kind of voice, like, we'd win more people to Jesus. Not so, all right? Not so. It's a supernatural thing. Only the God of the universe can step in personally and love people to the point where they start transferring their loyalty to him. And so if it's a supernatural thing to lead someone to Jesus, we've got to partner with God. Check out how Jesus put it in Luke chapter 11. We've got to ask God, okay? Jesus said them, and this is all in the context of prayer. It's amazing here. He just finished talking about the Lord's Prayer, and Jesus continues it with this story. Jesus said to them, suppose you have a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say, hey, friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread. Because a friend of mine's on a journey, and he's come to me, and I have no food to offer him. Well, suppose the one inside answers, don't bother me. The door's already locked. My kids and I are in bed. I can't get up and give you anything. Every one of us would have said the same thing, right? Check this out. I tell you, even though he won't get up and give you the bread because of your friendship, yet, because of your shameless audacity, he will surely get up and give you as much as you need. Guys, don't try that on my home tonight, okay? Please don't. It's not going to work, okay? I'm not Jesus. Anyway, Jesus continues, he says, so I say to you, ask and it's going to be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And to the one who knocks, the door is going to be opened. Now you say, how does this apply to this whole impacting other people? Well, a lot of people have used this verse to just say, man, whatever you want, like go ahead and ask God because he's going to give it to you. Did you notice who the friend was asking for? Was he asking bread for himself? He was asking it for someone who had come to him on a journey. Did you notice that? He went up to his friend's house looking for bread because someone else was in need. It wasn't himself that he was asking for. He was asking for someone on a journey. Do you guys know you got neighbors and coworkers on a spiritual journey right now? They may look like they're sitting on the couch and on no journey whatsoever, but I promise you that everyone's on a spiritual journey. Everyone is. And Jesus is inviting us in this moment right now to start pleading before the God of the universe for their sake. Man, are there some people in your life that you're praying for regularly? We talked about this habits and putting things in front of you to make it obvious and attractive and so that we can consistently do these things. I've got a piece of paper on my desk that just sits there every single day with names of people that I deeply care about who don't yet know Jesus personally. And I've made it all pretty and all fancy and all that stuff because these names mean a lot to me. I care about them. And I know that I can't influence these people to come to Jesus on my own. I can't. I mean, I've tried. I can't. But I know he can. And he's promised me bread. That if I keep asking, I'm going to receive. If I keep knocking, he's going to open that door. And it might take another day, and it might take 5 years, it might take 10 years. But if we keep at it and asking the God of the universe to step into these people's lives, he said he's going to change. So here's one thing that we talked about a couple weeks ago. We talked about the 2-minute rule. You guys remember that? 2-minute rule. If you're going to start a new habit, don't let that first step be longer than 2 minutes, right? Don't let that first step be longer than 2 minutes because we can do 2 minutes, If you're going to start a new habit and do it consistently, day after day after day, like we can do 2 minutes. Here's my challenge. Write down those names. We're going to get practical at this at the very end of the service today. Write down those names of people that you want to influence, you want to love, and help lead them to a different place. And just spend 2 minutes praying for them. I mean, I set prayer times for myself during the day, literally clock in on my phone, 2-minute countdown. And I pray for people. Do you know that consistent prayer is powerful? But here's the other 2 things that happens when you pray for people. God gives you a heart for them, and he shows you the pathway to reach them. You can't not pray for someone every single day and not start caring about them. If you're praying for them every single day, they're going to be on your mind. They're going to be not just on your mind, they're going to start infiltrating your heart. You're going to care about them, and you're going to start thinking, man, how can I love them more? And the amazing thing is he's going to show you the pathway too. I've been praying for a while for some people in my life and asking, all right, God, like, what can we do? Because there's some people that are not comfortable to come into an environment like this on a Sunday. They're just not. They're not ready for that. Everyone's on a journey. Step 1 for them is not Sunday morning. That's okay. If you're watching online and you're just not there, that's okay. But I've been praying and just asking, all right, God, what is that pathway? Where do we go? And I kid you not, God just kept putting basketball on my heart. I don't play basketball, all right? And I'm like, no, I don't think so, God. Like, have you seen me in basketball? First of all, like, there's all sorts of things wrong with that. I can't jump. I'm not really athletic for basketball. My ankles are totally awful. But God's like, basketball. So anyway, I'm talking with another friend of mine as we've been meeting weekly, and he's like, you know what? I got these friends of mine that are just not ready for church, but I was thinking sports, you know? We should do something with sports, and how about basketball? And I'm like, oh, man, like, here we go. So I'm like, all right, God, I hear you on that. So we started. I'm telling you, every Saturday night at 8 p.m., if you are even remotely inclined towards sports, you should come. We played last night. I got leveled by a guy who was playing basketball last night. No joke. I was like off my feet, on my back. I think I saw stars for a second there. But the cool thing is we're having a blast. My ankles haven't been destroyed yet, and we're building relationships with all sorts of people in the community that are not comfortable with church. We got someone who's coming to Football Sunday next week who came last night. The whole point here is through prayer, God's going to give you compassion for the people that you're praying for, and he's going to show you the pathway to start building relationships in their life. Prayer is powerful. Prayer is powerful. And if you've been praying for someone for a long time, and you haven't seen any results, let me just encourage you with a line that we talked about last week. Be far more concerned with your current trajectory than your current results. God says consistent long-haul prayer makes a powerful difference. Be concerned about that long-haul trajectory, and if you're consistent, God's going to do something amazing. Be more concerned about your current trajectory than your current results. Okay, so that's B. Well, what's the next step? This is where the introverts are going to start to get a little bit less comfortable, all right? All right, so we begin with prayer. L, simple, guys. Listen. 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 We are so bad at listening to people in the 21st century. This is not something we're good at. We are so good and trained at talking at people, talking about people, but not listening to them. Prayer is powerful, okay? This is how God talks about the power of listening in Proverbs 18:13 in the New Living Translation. It says, spouting off, talking, before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. Anybody had a conversation that really wasn't a conversation? You know what I'm saying? You're talking with somebody and you're sharing your life with them and they're not really listening to you. They're just waiting for that moment when they can kind of interject their story, all like your story, my story, okay? Like you're at a party like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Let me talk about me. You know what I'm saying? Where the me monster just jumps into everything. Like we are so good at introducing ourselves no matter what. And like, let me tell you what, like our culture has not set us up well for this at all, okay? We prefer, there's studies done on this. There's a great book if you wanna read it. Reclaiming Conversation by Sherry Turkle. It's a fantastic book, but it talks about how we are just terrible at conversations now. Most people, especially the younger you get, they prefer texts, tweets, and memes over real conversation. Why? Man, it's controllable. It's risky to sit down and actually talk to someone face to face because you don't know what they're going to say. Some people have even said, I don't like talking on the phone because I can't read their language. I get all nervous. I don't know what they're going to say, and I got to stay on the phone. It's like, people freak out about this. Why? Because we haven't been learning how to listen to people. Constant online activity. We've learned to stop listening to our environment. If you're bored, what do? You pull out your phone. In every down moment, man, we don't listen anymore. We've just tuned out to the media and to talking at people instead of listening to them. I love this. Listening is countercultural. It's powerful. Stephen Covey in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says, if you're going to influence people, he says, seek first to understand and then to be understood. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. It's so powerful. And I'm telling you, the church could learn a lot from that. Because I think the church has been really good, Christians have been really good at times at talking at people instead of actually sitting down and listening to them. Let's put it this way. Let's say you're an eye doctor, or let's say I'm an eye doctor, okay? And you come up to me and you say, hey, I've been having a hard time seeing lately. Things just kind of seem a little bit blurry. And I looked at you and said, I know exactly how you feel. I've been there too. Here, why don't you take my glasses and put them on? It'll fix everything. You put on my glasses, what's going to happen? Whoa, man, you got some crazy eyes. I'm like, no. Like, glasses fix everything. Just look through them. I am looking through them. It's fuzzy. What do you mean it's fuzzy? It works for me. What are we assuming in that moment? We're assuming we know everything about someone else's story just because we know ourselves, right? Have we listened to them? Have we really understood where they're at before assuming certain things and jumping to certain conclusions? Covey goes on to say that we actually usually listen at one of 4 levels. First one's really not listening, it's ignoring. Anybody good at ignoring? You just got I got a lot of voices in my house. Like 4 little kids, they got a lot of voices in my house. Sometimes you just got to turn it off, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, ignoring's the first one. Second one's pretending. That usually goes like this. Yep, right, yep, yep. Wives in the room, you know what I'm saying? You got that husband doing the dishes? Yep, right, Not listening, okay? You know you're not listening. Selective listening is the third one, hearing only what you want to hear in the conversation. The fourth one is attentive listening. You're paying attention to the words that are being said, but you still haven't reached the real level of understanding yet. That's empathic listening. And the difference here is it truly jumps into someone else's life and pays attention to them and understands where they're at. The essence of empathic listening, he says, is not that you agree with someone, it's that you fully, deeply understand that person, emotionally as well as intellectually. You build trust when you do that. I'm telling you, if you want to take your game to influencing people for Jesus to the next level, one of the first things I just challenge you to do, get better at listening. Man, I have some incredible conversations with random people in coffee shops, and I do about 5% of the talking. And I'm telling you, some of these people have taken massive leaps in their journey towards Jesus just because I've gotten curious about their life. Are you curious about people? Are you curious about them? Jesus was a beast at asking questions. You look through the Gospels, it actually recorded, there's about 307 times that he asks questions. He's curious about people. He wants to dig at their life and understand who they are. The God of the universe stepped into human existence, lived among us, and understood us. Hebrews 4 talks about how he can sympathize with our weakness. He understands us. And his followers did the same thing. In Acts chapter 17, I love this, 22 through 23, the Apostle Paul was sent as a missionary to go reach all sorts of people all over the Mediterranean world. And he shows us the pathway on how to do it, paying attention to people's lives. Check this out. Verse 22, Paul then stood up in the meeting in the Areopagus and said, "People of Athens, I understand that in every way you're very religious." He's paying attention to their life. "For as I walked around and looked carefully," have you studied the people around you? At your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, to an unknown God. So you're ignorant of the very thing that you worship, and this is what I'm going to proclaim to you. He was fully present. He was fully dialed into the people around him. He paid attention. He studied them. He tried to understand them at the depth of who they were, and only then could he build a bridge to help them understand who Jesus was. Because if we assume certain things about somebody and then start leveling all sorts of messages that we've already, concocted mechanically in our head about Jesus towards them, is that going to connect with them? Did you know that every one of the New Testament letters that Paul wrote was unique, specific to that specific audience? It was no one size fits all, and it's the same way as we share Jesus with other people. The gospel message will always stay the same, but how we communicate it has got to be different. Because every person is different, every context is different. We've got to understand. Listen. So here's a couple of practical things about listening. If you want to get better at listening, number one, put your phone away. Put your phone away. There is a moment each night that I want to put my phone on the counter in my kitchen so that I can be fully present with my kids. And I put my phone to bed at night too. I literally tuck it in, okay? Because I want to be fully present. Are you fully present? Do you put your phone away? Man, I encourage you, even in grocery store checkout lines, at doctor offices, put your phone away. It's going to help you to start listening better. Ask good questions is number two on that one. Ask good questions. You don't have this in your notes or anything. If you want to write it down, go ahead. But if you want to get better at listening, ask good questions. Number three, make good eye contact. Eye contact actually triggers empathy. Did you know that 10% of communication is through words, 30% is through sounds, and 60% is through body language? You want to help people feel understood? Look them in their eyes. It's amazingly powerful, even if it's awkward for a lot of us in this room. Allow for silence, even if that's awkward, and be fully present. Man, I encourage you, if you take nothing away from this message, listen to people. Pay attention to them. All right, so that's B and L. We spent a lot of time on those so far, but those are critical beginnings. The third one just gets a lot more fun. You ready for this? E is for eat. Anybody else a foodie in the house today? Yes, we got a couple of honest people in here. I love that. Next week, we're going to have, literally hundreds of wings in the house. If you like wings on Football Sunday, it's going to be a lot of fun. Invite people to it. Man, take advantage of your meals. There's some people that I've heard that they want to share their faith, but they're like, man, I don't have any time for that. Man, I'm between my work and my home and all the different activities I don't have time to invest in people who are far from God. Well, here's the amazing thing about the human body. You got to eat, right? That's 21 meals a week where you have to stop, you got to eat, and we usually build relationships over food. I'm encouraging you, take advantage of one of those 21 opportunities every week. Just be intentional with it. Maybe you're at your workplace and you brought food in with you and you usually sit down at your desk and just eat all by yourself. Stop. Invite someone in. Share a meal together. Maybe you got some neighbors who eat dinner too. Invite them in. You never know. They probably eat too. Invite them in. I'm telling you, like our group took our group experience to a whole nother level in the summertime when we invited people to just have barbecues with us. We broke from our study material, and a couple years ago, and even last year, we would just hold these random barbecues. We had neighbors, co-workers that don't belong to our church that would just engage with us because we shared a meal together. This is how Jesus did it. Ready? In Matthew 9 through 13, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth, and he said, "Follow me." And Matthew got up and followed him. This is Jesus trying to influence people, lead them back to a relationship with God. How did he do it? Verse 10, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. Many. Everyone likes food. Well, most people, okay? If you're normal. All right. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Why? They're asking this question because these are the people you're not supposed to hang out with. You know, we've talked about this before. Tax collectors were the despised people. They were cheating their own people. They were traitors working for Rome. And the sinners, we don't know what that is, but it was painfully obvious. Let's put it that way. People knew exactly just by looking at these people that they were sinners. And Jesus said this, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. It's not. He said, go learn what this means. I love that. totally calls out the people who are supposed to have all the answers. Go learn. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I've come to call the righteous, not the righteous, but sinners. Man, if we save all our meals for the people who are just comfortable with us, we're not following Jesus. I challenge you, take inventory on your 21 meal opportunities during the week and pick one of them, just one out of 21, to sit down with someone who does not know Jesus, spend time with them, ask them questions. It's going to take your influence with them to a whole nother level. And this translates not just to food, but just to all the things that you normally do. Man, if you're an athlete and you're going to work out, you're normally going to play sports, like take advantage of things like basketball Saturdays, Don't do it by yourself or just with people who are comfortable or who believe Jesus. Man, do it in an environment where other people who don't yet know him can also be included. If there are people in your neighborhood that throw parties, I know a couple in our church that just moved to a new neighborhood, and they found out that all their neighbors actually get together once a month and they have a big meal together. And they throw all sorts of wild parties. And they said, I love this, ready? They went up to this couple and they were like, yeah, we weren't sure to invite you because we thought you looked like conservative Christians. And I'm like, that's it, man. You can break that stereotype right now by jumping into what's already happening and love them right where they are. Is it going to get uncomfortable? You bet. But that's where the adventure is. Every time. If we played it safe and comfortable, we'll never have the stories of life change. Take advantage of your 21 meal opportunities during the week. Number 4, once you've built this stuff, now the first S is serve. Serve. Nothing builds trust and relationships like serving someone else, right? I mean, if I were to ask you who are the most trusted voices in your life, my guess is it's people who have sacrificed in one way or another for you, right? I got convinced this past week to finally buy a new phone because mine was a dinosaur by someone I trust a lot because they've sacrificed a ton for me, okay? They're on the phone, and I'm like, I don't want to do it. And they're like, yeah, you should do it. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. They're like, yes, you absolutely have to do this right now. I'm like, okay. So, but it's because they've sacrificed. I trust that person. The trusted voices in your life are the ones who've served you. We tend to follow the counsel of those who've sacrificed for us. So, Jesus was amazing at this. Even before talking about Jesus, think about this for a second. If you begin with prayer and you're praying for somebody, and you're paying attention to their life, you're listening to them consistently, and then you're also sharing meals with them, guess what? They're going to tell you how to serve them. It's not going to be, for a lot of us, we're like, well, I don't know how to serve my neighbors. What do I do? Just make a whole bunch of brownies or pies and show up at their doors? For a lot of people, that's really threatening, okay? What do you want, But if we pay attention to them and just conversate and spend time with them, they're going to tell us how we can serve them, okay? In Matthew 20:28, it said, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. This is part and parcel of our identity. Do you know that the early church exploded back in the first couple of 100 years, not because they just went out to convert people, even though they shared the gospel like it was backyard gossip, they were really good at talking about that. But do you know one of the foundational reasons why the early church exploded the way that it did? I love this. Rodney Stark, in his book, The Rise of Christianity, he was a sociologist who at the time when he wrote it was not a Christian and since actually became a Christian because he could not get past how powerful this was. He said in the first couple of 100 years, the Christians were so good at loving and caring for the people around them that everyone took notice. There was multiple moments where plagues would break out across the Roman Empire. And it was so nasty that most people would just flee the scene. I don't want anything to do with that. If I get touched, I'm probably going to die. You know what the Christians did? They rushed to the scenes. They were the ones who cared for the sick and the dying and did not care for themselves, but cared for other people and even got all sorts of sicknesses on them and died. But the world was watching. And they said, if people are willing to sacrifice at that level, then what they believe has got to be true, and I want in. To see the change that has taken place in their life, I want in. Matthew 5:14-16 says it this way: you're the light of the world. A town built on a hill can't be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. No, they put it on its stand. We've got to be public. We've got to be in people's faces and give light to everyone in the house. And in the same way, let your light shine before others publicly. But watch how he qualifies it. That they may see your what? Your good deeds. And glorify your Father in heaven. When we serve people, when we love them, it's going to create a pathway for them to know Jesus. It's amazing. I had a friend at Starbucks this past week who's very deeply concerned about the environment. And he's been noticing this girl who comes in every single day getting a plastic cup with 2 straws, and it just drives him crazy. He was sitting with me across the table, and he's like, this is driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts. She's destroying the planet. I don't know what to do. What do I do? How do I get her out of this habit? And I looked at him, I said, hey man, have you listened to her yet? Like, you sat down and talked to her? How about this? Why don't you, there's some tumblers over there on the shelf. Why don't you go ahead and buy one for her? And have her bring it in every day. Huh? It was a really interesting conversation. I'll leave you on a cliffhanger. I won't tell you how that went. But I know you so badly want to know how that went. Anyway, I said, man, if you sacrifice for her, that might actually change her life. Who are you willing to sacrifice for? That it could possibly transform everything about their life and eternity. Small acts of service done consistently. Who can you serve? Here's the last one, guys. The last S is story. This is so important that we get to it at this point. The gospel is a message that needs to be talked about verbally. It's good news. And news doesn't happen without us using our voice and talking about it. It's got to be talked about. As Romans 10:13-15 says, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. That's a promise. How then can they call on the name of the one they have not believed in? How can they believe in the one they have not heard about? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? We've got to talk about it. And how can they preach unless they're sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Did you know that you and I, every one of us in this room, we're sent? We've been commissioned with this message. We got to talk about it. But you notice where this is in the order? Prayer comes first. Listen to them. Spend time with them. Build that relationship. Build those bridges. Serve them. And at this point, you know what they're going to be asking? Why are you doing this? Tell me, why is your life so different? I had a conversation with my neighbor last week as we're watching the Niners beat the Packers. I'm sorry, cheeseheads in the room, but we're watching the game. And at one point, we're talking about, it was a really, I didn't even have this in my notes. It was a really kind of strange conversation, but we talked about winning the lottery and what we would do with it. And he talked about all sorts of different things and what he would do. He's actually a brilliant chef, and he'd want to open up all sorts of different restaurants. And he said, man, what would you do if you won the lottery? I said, you know what? I'm just being honest about this. I'd start funding efforts to reach all sorts of more people through more churches. It's all I want to do. All I want to do is mobilize more people to reach more people for Jesus. And he started asking me question after question after question. Why? Because we spent time together. I pray for my friend every day. I've listened to him. We've spent countless hours together. He got curious and asked me about my faith. We got to talk about it, but build it on the back of love for other people. And I'm telling you, if we don't talk about it, people are not going to hear about it, okay? We've got to talk about it. There was a girl in my college who was talking to her RD one day about a missions trip she was going to take to the Dominican Republic. And she was all excited about it, and RD said, yeah, tell me about it when you get back. She went on the trip, came back, was all excited, talking to her RD, and she said, man, it was amazing. We changed lives. We built all these houses for the people there, and, the houses, they were just amazing. Everyone was so grateful, praise Jesus. And the RD said, that's great. Did you tell them about Jesus? She's like, well, not with words, but with our actions, right? They're clearly going to get Jesus from that, right? They came to find out 2 weeks later that the local people were actually praising the local witch doctor because he'd cast spells on that area just 2 weeks before the missions team showed up. And they assumed that all these houses were because of what he did. Guys, there are people in your workplaces, in your neighborhoods. There are friends that you have right now they're not going to pick up the fact that the Son of God came into this world, took on our suffering, put himself on the cross in our place because we owed God the debt of sin that deserved death. He took that on himself so that only by trust and faith we would have a new relationship with God forever. They're not going to pick up on that if you just go to a party. We've got to tell people about Jesus. Here's the power of this. When we share the story of the gospel, I'm going to equip you with two things here. One, there's an app called the 3 Circles that if you're interested in it, it's a really brief, very short explanation of how to share the gospel. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check that off on your Connect card. I'll send that to you this week. But it talks about creation, fall, redemption in a creative, simple way that you can learn how to share it. And the second thing is, learn how to share your story. Not just the gospel message itself, but learn how to share your story, what God has done in your life. The reality is every one of us in this room, we've got a unique story. And nobody can argue with your experience. Some of you are worried about how to say and what words to use. What if it was just your story, what God has done in your life personally? That's all they needed to hear. If you're interested in that, message me at the very bottom of that Connect card, and I'll give you resources for how to do that too. But here's what I want to do. We got some guys in the back. We're going to hand out some cards here. We're going to introduce to you guys some cards that we believe could be game changers for the rest of this year. We're going to call them blessed cards. And it's going to have every one of these steps here. With begin with prayer, listen, eat, serve, and story. And the challenge for us as we work through this is to start thinking down and even very practically writing down some names on this card of people that are in your life, that are close to you but far from God, that you can start getting intentional with. And so what I want to do is I want to give you a couple of minutes here and write down 3 names, just 3 names. Write down 3 names of people that maybe your first step is just to pray for them this week. And maybe you have been, and your next step is just listen. So take 2 minutes and go ahead and write down those names.
Thanks for joining us online today. Hope you enjoyed your live stream experience. Before you go, we wanted to invite you to consider partnering with us in a special opportunity between now and January 31st of 2020. Check it out. When the well was first getting started back in 2016, we had a dream that God would use a growing group of people to help our friends and our neighbors know and follow Jesus. Given the fact that Nashua is located in the second least religious area of the country, we knew that it would take a radically unselfish group of people who are willing to sacrifice and show God's love in tangible, practical ways for the sake of our city and beyond to reach more for Jesus. We believe that we have a responsibility to see lives change for Jesus in New Hampshire and beyond. In fact, the Apostle Paul put it this way: all this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That God was reconciling the world to himself in Christ. We believe that when we answer God's call here and radically, unselfishly love our city and beyond in tangible ways, we will see lives changed. That's why I'm excited to introduce you to our For the Sake of the World special offering to show just how much we care about our church, our city, and our world. This sacrificial offering has a God-sized goal of $10,200 to support 4 vital ministry initiatives that will help us impact our church, our greater Nashua area, and even the world in 2020. So we're asking you to give to this special offering above and beyond your normal tithes and giving, because we believe that God wants to do incredible things through our church in 2020. The Well is a church that deeply believes in church startups and belongs to a national and a global network that exists to help start churches that care for their cities in America and around the world. A portion of our For the Sake of the World will go to supporting these church startups nationally and globally so that we can see many more lives changed for Jesus. We also deeply care about the needs in our local community and have committed to coming alongside organizations that make a difference by giving basics like boots for the homeless at the Nashville Rescue Mission and school supplies and Christmas presents to the 80% of families under the poverty line at the Dr. Crisp Elementary School. We've been able to share the love of Jesus with hundreds in very tangible ways. Your 2020 giving will continue to help us share Jesus' love in tangible ways. The Well is also committed to building relational bridges in our community in fun and strategic ways. Between our annual egg hunt, block parties, and commitment to partnering alongside the local Parks and Rec, we've met with and extended invitations to thousands each year. Your 2020 giving will help us to continue to build a positive reputation and invite thousands more to know and follow Jesus. We're a church that loves to invest in children and families. As we continue to see our Kids Zone grow, your 2020 giving will help enhance our Kids Zone experience with necessary upgrades to continue to invest in our next generation's spiritual growth. It will also go to enhancing our Sunday morning experience in general so that we can help many more find a home with us here at the Well and follow Jesus together with us. When you give to the For the Sake of the World special offering, you're investing in something greater than yourself, and you're believing with us that God can use our church to impact so many lives for Jesus Christ. So will you pray and ask God how He wants you to give to the For the Sake of the World special offering? Let God challenge you to give above and beyond your normal giving so that together we can reach this God-sized goal of $10,200 and fund these 4 vital ministry initiatives. Listen, for us, this is a God-sized goal. And so it's going to take all of us working together to be able to reach it. And so whether you can contribute a large amount to help take care of a chunk of this goal, or whether you want to give smaller amounts each week, that little bit added together makes a big difference. But here's the thing. I promise there is no greater return on investment than when you and I invest in changing lives for Jesus Christ. Let's not forget, we love each other and our world because God loved us first. So as we get ready for 2020, let's ask God to use us like never before so that we can impact our church, our city, and our world for Jesus.